Truly African.
Hello there, you're welcome to the only show that brings you happenings in the world of diplomacy and international relations, diplomatic affairs. My name is Harriet Nati. The show comes off every Saturday from 4 to 5 o'clock p.m. on Pan-African Television. We are also very big on our YouTube and social media platforms, so you can always catch up with us and learn what is happening when it comes to issues pertaining to diplomacy and international relations. Today, my mission is a very simple one. There is a problem or a crisis, if I can put it that way, that seems to be of concern to everyone but Africa. Why am I saying but Africa? Because I personally have been monitoring the grounds to see if I could find something from the African Union which actually states their concern about the current situation in the Middle East. I still haven't come across anything written from the quarters or headquarters of the African Union. My concern is that this affects us as a continent, politically, economically, and socially, whether we like it or not. Also, there are Ghanaians in the Middle East. There are Africans in the Middle East. My question is simple. Shouldn't we be concerned? Shouldn't we be worried about the unfolding situation in the Middle East? It appears we are sitting on a time bomb, as stated by my guest, whom I will be introducing right after this break. Welcome back. Like I mentioned, the show is Diplomatic Affairs. I'm going to go straight to my guest, who is no stranger when it comes to our platform, Diplomatic Affairs. He is an international relations consultant, and he is in the person of Farouk Al-Wahab. He's very well known for his works and, of course, analysis when it comes to issues around diplomacy and international relations, also African diplomacy, you name it. This is his space. And so when we thought of speaking to an expert to actually help us understand what is happening in the Middle East and, of course, how Africa is going to be affected or impacted with the current situation, we didn't think of any other person other than him to help us with trying to get a sense of what is happening when it comes to the situation in the Middle East. Mr. Al-Wahab, thank you so much for joining us once again. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, my dear.
You've been roaming all over the world. Welcome back to Africa.
Thanks a lot, my dear.
Right.
How's everything?
Very good. It's good to see you. You didn't show up at the Maiden Diplomatic Honors.
Well,
we were expecting you because we started this conversation
together
with you.
And you know, as you're aware, that I felt so bad, but the situation was very difficult.
Right.
Because I was far away, as you're aware, in Canada, US, and these were events related or particular with my son, so it was a little bit difficult for me to, but then we are hoping to have more of such programs, and then I'll feature prominently.
Definitely.
Anyway, once again, let me say my sincere apology to all the other personalities who knew that I was going to be part of the program that I couldn't make it up, but all the same, my spirit, my soul, and then everything was with you.
Right.
And it was a successful.
Absolutely.
Let me congratulate you also for putting up Ghana on the space and being the first time that we have in such a thing in the country. I think it is commonly fair for a state and then for all of us to encourage you to do the more. And the more we do it, the more the country's name also comes up. It's not of its kind that you see in even a country like South Africa. So if you're talking about diplomacy, and even in Ethiopia, said diplomatic honors has not taken place and is done in Ghana, I think it is a big lesson of you. So thumbs up. One thing that I would say is that the name, just feel free, add no Mr. to an Islamic name. I mentioned several times.
Al-Wahab will do.
Exactly.
Right,
that is
okay. So ladies and gentlemen, we are sticking with Al-Wahab,
Exactly.
Farouk Al-Wahab, our
Exactly.
international relations consultant.
Thanks a lot.
Well,
Yes.
thank you so much for your time. Now, Farouk, let me just go straight to this key issue. As an international relations correspondent, my worry is the fact that there hasn't been much from the headquarters of the African Union. I want us to briefly talk about whether this actually affects Africa as a continent in any way. Are we concerned, or it appears the world, we are far away from what is happening? Are we far from what is happening in the Middle East?
Let me be very frank with you.
Should Africans be concerned?
Yes, and then no.
Okay.
Yes, in a sense that we live in one global village, one global community, one global economic bloc. So what it affects other parts of the world, correspondingly, it does affect Africa, regardless of where you are. And there is a heat and an issue of the Middle East. If not anything at all, the world gets about 60% of her oil from that region. And the economy of the world hangs on power, hangs on energy. So whenever and wherever there are crises with the energy producing or oil producing countries, then technically it does affect us. On that note, you say yes, because what Africa produces, we are not the people, we are not also producing the end user product, i.e. Nigeria, i.e. Gabon, Libya, are you getting me? Ghana, and other countries producing oil. We also rely on the other side, predominantly the Middle East. So when the prices escalate, that is where we have. I've not seen situation where Nigeria had been fighting Boko Haram, etc. But it does not necessarily impact the price of a barrel of oil. Are you getting me? But whenever there's an issue with Iraq, issue with Iran, issue in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, etc., then you see the prices shutting up and then shutting down back and forth. It's because of the emphasis on that region, economic activity solely or predominantly being the oil. Qatar is there, Emirates is there, Saudi Arabia, all of them, the playmakers or the bigger playmakers of the oil industry, they are there. That one we should be. But if it comes to a concern of a fight between Iran, between Israel, between Palestine, and then between, Lebanon or Syria, Africa do not have much to be worried about. The reason is very simple. Diplomatically, it could have a kind of a little bit where the shape here is that some of the African governments are wrongly adjusted as to what comment to introduce, because either they have something to do with Israel or they have also diplomatic commitment of recognition of the Palestine state by the entire African Union, i.e. the African Union was the only bloc that first and foremost granted Palestine, acknowledged Palestine as a state. And they also somehow honorary seat at the African Union. Whereas Yasser Arafat had his seat permanently because he couldn't have joined the UN bloc due to the American and then the French, the British and the Israel bloc. So they couldn't have lived and performed as any other country hanging in the air. So they needed also a bloc, and they came to Africa. So if unanimously all the African continent, 56 countries, that forms the AU. And before OAU, it is just commonly fair that acknowledgement and accepting the PLO and then the Palestine state as an honorary member of the African Union. At what point you turn around? Yes, we have individual countries, whereas presidents or presidential houses, quote unquote, have made certain privatized, I'm referring to privately because of the personality of the president himself, made some remarks, which some of them were very purely undiplomatic. It does not represent the view of the African Union. It has happened before. Our president had one time and others have also commented one time. Some shares or try to, stimulate the conversation to make it look like it's a religious affair. Well, technically that is not the case. Therefore, it makes it very complex. But then let me just bring you to the topic. If Africa has anything to say about the Middle East crisis, our home and the host of the African Union, i.e. Ethiopia Republic, you can only take out the capital, Addis Ababa. Mm-hmm. Every part of Ethiopia is fighting. The biggest difference between the Homoros and Amaras, this issue is still predominantly escalating the tribal settings, the fight, making it difficult governance from Ahmed Abiy to rule Ethiopia. Yet, is that not the congregation destination of the African Union? Mm-hmm. Is that not the host of the 56 African countries? Right. Is that not the host of all the African countries' ambassadors that make decisions? Is that not the commission? Is that not the secretariat of the African Union? So if you've not been able to deal with the issue as a union, even among your own set, including the headquarters of the union, you haven't solved the problem. At what point do you go to Middle East?
That's your back door, right?
You get it? Now the border next to the Ethiopia, you have Sudan there. What is happening in Sudan? The Sudan war, till today, how many have gone down, dead? What has African Union done? They raised their hands in the air, asking United Nations to come in.
There's a serious humanitarian crisis.
Thank you. What have they done in Somaliland? What have they done in Eritrea? What have they done in Djibouti? And then what have they done also the Al-Shabaab situation with Kenya and Somalia? What have they done with even South Sudan? What have they done with the escalating Niger. And the Niger is not an issue. Burkina Faso is not an issue. Neither Mali is an issue. These are political issues. Change of government through the military putsch is not an issue because these are revolution or putsch that have been accepted by the people. So there's no fighting ongoing, except in the case of Burkina, in the case of Mali, there were rebellion activities ongoing. That is the different thing. However, the country itself, the fever of the country, it is calm because the people have accepted. That's a different thing. But South Sudan, there are security challenges. Somaliland, there's the security challenges. Security challenges in Eritrea, bad governance. One of the worst governance is Eritrea. African Union have not spoken about it. So if, as
but the African Union, I'm sorry, let me just come in briefly though.
Yes.
African Union has been issuing, press releases from time to time regarding the situation
yes.
in some of these countries that you have mentioned. There have been cases where they have even sent out a delegation
yes.
to mediate
yes.
peace and ensure that there is truce in some of these situations that you have mentioned.
Yes.
So I wouldn't entirely, if you ask me, say that the AU has not lived up to its mandate. Maybe there is more.
Its mandate in the Middle East or its mandate in where?
In Africa,
in
as
Africa.
you mentioned, regarding
yes.
the names the countries that you have enlisted.
Yes, yes.
So I'm looking at the fact that they have, expressed concern, they have acted in
yes.
some ways.
Yes.
And even though some of these issues continue to brew, it doesn't mean that they have been silent, completely silent.
They have been silent.
Backdoor.
Yes, they've been silent. Making a mediation, trying to make an attempt, looking and seeking for solution, does not mean that you are dealing with the issue. You are only satisfying the diplomatic eye expectations of what you're supposed to do. Not notwithstanding, let us ask the African Union, what happened to the African Union military force, the interventions? How well, how effective, how balanced have they been able to deal with the issue? Let me ask you, the African Union, look at the tenure of the presidencies and then the secretary generals and how they turn it around, especially the presidency. If you bring a president of a country, i.e., let's say Ghana, for the Ghana president or the Togo president or Nigerian president to be the president of the African Union, chairman of the African Union, name it whichever way that you want it. Back then in his country, in the case of Togo, Ayadema hasn't got opposition leader. He has not had elections. He hasn't got a timeline and time limit on his governance, on his administration. So if you bring Ayadema to be the African Union chair, do you expect Ayadema to speak a politically related violent over elections when it's happening in another African country? And that has been the issue that some of us have mentioned several times. That is completely wrong. European Union is younger than the African Union. How did they start it? Look at in the early 90s when Barroso came. Barroso had not been a president, neither any ministerial XYZ in Portugal. So there was a strict law made till today that any leader that leads the European Union, yes, he could be a former president, he could be a former diplomat, he could be etc., not an active sitting as the Prime Minister of Belgium, Prime Minister of Holland, Luxembourg, becoming the Union. So the neutrality of the African Union, it is where we have the questions. And the neutrality here is that they've all compromised. Back to back, they get to Paul Kagame. He was an African Union chair. Yes, Kagame, beautiful. He's very fine when it comes to economic affairs in his country. He's made sure the cleanliness, he's made sure, etc. His economic record is undisputed. Yet, if you're talking about, let's say, governance, political governance, democracy, somebody will say that, yes, he is not democratic. But I would say so that forget about the democracy, concentrate on his economic record. So if there's an issue that borders on democracy in other African country, what do you think would Paul Kagame be able to speak to the subject? And across board, it is the same. So therefore, Harry, what it is that the African Union have always their hand. They are only loud, endorsing unnecessary documents, endorsing unnecessary charter when it's in the other part of the continent. But let's find out, when Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, who put the African Union there, more or less, when they were having they were economically shattered. They didn't have money to run, electricity bills, etc. It single-handedly took Gaddafi, and this you can check the records, the building, the today's AU, which country's money was in it, and other of the African Union commissions, etc., were all established with the money of the Republic of Libya. Therefore, at that time, Thabo Mbeki, President Kufuor, Obasanjo, Festus Mogae, and then all of them, they were there. Gaddafi was single-handed. But when it mattered most that they were chasing Gaddafi to kill, you are telling me here that they should be concerned, we should be concerned about Israel, Middle East, etc. Thank you, bingo. What did they do? When their own brother, one of their own, was being killed, and when he was killed, have the African Union asked legitimate questions? If Libya has a government, do they have a government? At the time Gaddafi was killed, the only country in Africa that never had one single refugee asylum seeker in any part of Europe. The only country that the people were not going to bed hungry. The only part of the people that the people didn't have any issue to do with accommodation. How many years down the line? But Gaddafi, when his population was 4 million, he has 10 million apartments for his people. Gaddafi, before he died, 9-year-old child can have a car with insurance fully covered. Where and how today? Tell me who is the Prime Minister of Libya. Tell me who is the president as a diplomatic journalist. You wouldn't be able to tell. It's not your fault because it's what? There's no government.
The government has not been put in place.
Therefore, African Union supervise their own to be killed. It took only the South African Jacob Zuma. When even Zuma wanted to go there in the heat, when he was warned by France, Sarkozy, he was warned by the British, he was by the American, at that time Mrs. Clinton, that he should leave and that there's going to be fire. The very day Jacob Zuma left there, that was the day Ajamere, the airport, was bombarded, destroyed all the aircraft. So therefore, African Union cannot choose and pick what they want the world to hear about them, whereas in your back home. I don't see whereas that in your own homeland, you don't have an education and you are going to give education to another place.
But we are talking about weapons of mass destruction here.
Yes.
In this case, which is why I want to find out if it is an issue of concern when it comes to the bloc in charge of the entire African continent.
Yes.
Shouldn't we have our voices heard?
We have World War. We have World War II. We haven't had World War III. There cannot be a conventional World War III anymore in this part of the world.
You don't think that we are
there can never be
World War III?
There can be.
You don't think we are at the verge
we
of
have
World War
no
War III?
We've always been at the verge. The issue is that the World War I, there were territories of the world. There were water bodies, there were forest bodies, there were countries. Now colonization was going on. So British, Ghana Gold Coast was under British. So British will get up and call Ghana army, let's go to Sagarenti War. French will come and pick Togolese army and take them to go and fight. British, America, not that particular, but British and the French, they were taking their colonies to anywhere to fight. After the Second World War and after the First World War, Second World War, all territories, there is no single territory, a piece of land of the size of my palms, which is not belonging to any country of the world, either a superpower or a junior power. The only people today who are not having, let's say, any affiliation to any country is the West Papua in the South Pacific, which is under the colonization of independent Indonesia. So if you look at it from that point, then I'm asking you, how possible would today, if United Kingdom or the English go and have their problems that they are going to fight to support Israel or to support Iran, then they tell Ghana army, as it used to be the case, please come. Now we have our own general, we have our independent, we have our president, we have our constitution, and then we have our own what? Our military laws. So you cannot come and pick anybody from any Africa. And now let me take you back to the conventional, the nuclear, ballistic wars, etc. weapons. It is still going to be directed at where it is supposed to be directed. Among those who are fighting, not here. It is not. So let us not have that fear that today Israel and that is fighting, a bomb will be flying over Accra. If that is your perception or that's your knowledge, I'm just sorry to say that no. The conventional World War III is what we had. One of them is that deceitful war of the COVID. It is either health war or economic war, and we are in already. That is the Third World War. Germans, the Swiss or whatever, Germans are not prepared. Where is the Nazis? Where are they going to fight? Where is the Axis power? Where are the Italians? Where are the Ethiopians? Those who fought alongside the Germans against the West, the Nazis, where are they? Those blocks, those things are not existing anymore. Let nobody take it from me. We belong to the diplomatic sphere. We belong to that. We understand what is going on. Don't let anybody deceive you that there will be a fight. The whole Europe fought in 1992, 1991, when there was a breakaway Republic of Yugoslavia orchestrated by superpowers for them to fight because of the strength and the might of Yugoslavia, Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia Herzegovina, Albania, Kosovo, Tirana, Dubrovnik, all of them, when they were macheting and butchering the whole Europe. Hungary didn't go and support. Romania did not enter to fight. Bulgaria didn't fight. Neither Czech Republic, neither the Polish. These are the Eastern Bloc. They didn't go to Yugoslavia to fight for anybody. But they fought their own fight.
Isn't the narrative a bit different from currently or present time? I'm asking because I do know that Iran, for instance, has advanced in terms of, producing mass destruction weapons.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that is one of the fears.
Yeah, one of the fears.
Of global leaders, if
yes.
I can put it that way.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying that I think the narrative differs. then and now, it will be very unfair for us to look at one model and say that it is going to play on the same level. So therefore, shouldn't we be worried? Because now we know that countries are gradually advancing when it comes to producing weapons of destruction.
Yes.
Everybody is heavily investing in
Yes.
that area.
Except
defense,
except
for
Africa.
Africa.
Yes.
Well, I believe we will get there.
We will not get there. We don't have even
will
one
catch up
weapon.
with the
No, we can't catch up. We don't, even AK-47, no African country, except Egypt, that has tried to produce their own weapon. Besides that, tell me which African countries, all the 56, they import their weapons. Don't forget that I do consultants in weapon or weaponry acquisition, etc. So that is another thing. Let me just tell you, he who lives in a glass house, throw no stone. Are you clear? Ghana has no issue with Israel. Neither do we have any issue with Iran. Togo has no problem with Turkey. They don't have any problem with Kurdistan. They don't have any problem with Afghanistan. Neither has Nigeria got problem with Uzbekistan or Tajikistan, etc. Where they are fighting, these are fighters, they are fighting their own fight. No rocket bomb is going to get here. If it is nuclear for all of us to go, fine. But then let us also not forget about the parole, the talk, the diplomatic talk of the Western, the superpowers. When it matters most, then they are seeking the African, the minor, the countries they call it the third world, our voices to come and support. That is where we have our mistake. Our mistake is that we are not concentrating on our economy. Our mistake is that none of these superpower can go and tell Emirates, Qatar, come and speak for us.
But no country is an island.
No country is an island. I haven't said that any country is an island.
We depend on each other.
When we are killing Sudanese, people are killing themselves. When Congolese are killing themselves, where are the superpowers? Are they also living on an island? Have they come to solve the problem? They are fueling the issue. You are talking UN itself. What does UN do? Excuse me. I know UN fairly well from my childhood. What has UN done? Congo issue, the issue of the Congolese. Where's the UN? Who are the people? Where do they get their weapon from? Congo does not produce one single bullet, one single arms, one single ammunition. Where do they get it from? The embargo. Before you get a weapon from European Union sent to Congo, you have what is called the EUC, the end user certificate. If the weapon is coming from Europe, and there is an embargo already on Congo, are they fighting with what? Are they fighting with catapult? No. They are fighting with heavy machine guns. Where do they get the machine guns? Boko Haram is an abandoned organization. Call them terrorists or call them extremists. Call them Islamic jihadists. Where do they get their weapon from? Which port do they clear their weapons? Who is the agent that cleared their airports? And the machinery they are using, where does it come from? So you don't come and sell weapons to an African country, take resources out, either in cash or in kind or whatever, excuse me, that you benefit out of it. Then you go and sit at the UN, Congress, and then you'll be making what? You'll be making speeches. UN is full of speeches. There's no action.
Now, well, I don't think that the world would have been safe without the little that you might say the UN is.
Nevertheless, it is far grown.
It's better to have a global police.
I understand.
Than
I'm not arguing with that.
Right.
But the UN is far grown to be able, they themselves, they know. How do we rather organize, mobilize money to go and solve humanitarian crisis? We don't have the same energy to stop. So UN doesn't know prevention. UN only knows attempting to cure. Which organization does that?
Okay, now Farouk, talking of the United Nations,
yes.
Let me find out from you. Do you think diplomacy can cut it?
They are not prepared.
Will there be a two-state solution?
I was trying to give you a background the last time, when you interviewed me on Saturday. Right. I said, UN should come clear and tell me, if not you, tell me. Israel should tell the world. Iran should tell the world. America should tell the world. what was the friendship between Israel and Iran? Were they friends? Answer is yes. If you do not know, they were padis. They were padis because at that time, Iran, Iraq were having a rift. They were killing themselves, they were fighting. The sophisticated intelligence leading to Iran's successes in that war were all from the Israeli Mossad. So they were padis. Who founded Hamas? Hamas was formed when Yasser Arafat and the PLO were declared a terrorist organization. So a counter-terrorist organization to crush Yasser Arafat and the PLO, that gave birth to Hamas in 1984. Where did Hamas got their monies? Where did they, and when did they have those bunkers? The bunkers were built by them to fight who? They were using that bunkers to fight Yasser Arafat. When Hamas was fighting with PLO, what was the Israeli stand? What was the stand of United Nations? What was the stand of United States of America? It is not the only one. Afghanistan and Russia, the Mujahideen rebels, how was it founded? To fight against Russia and succeeded and have Afghanistan.
Again, does this diplomacy stand a chance?
So diplomacy cannot stand any chance if the willingness of the diplomats are not there. And then for that matter, I'm telling you, the willingness is not there. It is a tea party. Diplomacy sometimes comes with only tea party. Inconclusive chatter, inconclusive agreements, nobody signs anything. We introduce the topic, they discuss the topic, then adjournment is like police station, Ghana police, charge and bail. The case go to court, it's adjournment, indefinite adjournment. That is what they did. Look, it got to a tip under President Clinton that two-party state was concluded. When I was that, Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat, Foreign Minister Shimon Peres, under Clinton Al-Gore regime, they triggered the push. The one should tell me how possible that all the Israeli Labour Party, Ehud Barak, Shimon Peres, Golda Meir, and all of them, whenever the Labour Party was in power in Israel, there was a serious attempt for two-party state negotiation almost to the end that everything is settled. In no time, there's a flip over. When Likud or Herod or Kadima parties come to power, there's an issue of an escalation.
You've mentioned that diplomacy does not stand a chance here.
Yes,
you mentioned that there is the lack of political will on the part of global leaders to solve this issue. In your view, your own opinion, let me ask you, please, briefly, how do you think this mess can be cleaned? The situation in the Middle East?
It's only two issues. One issue is the recognition of the Palestine state. Hezbollah is fighting because of Palestine. Iran is fighting because of Palestine. Other places, diplomacy, I told you on Saturday on your program, diplomacy has worked under the U.S. president of Jimmy Carter and Mondale government. When Israel and Egypt, their issue was worse than the Palestine. Go and check. The killings was worse than the Palestine. How was it solved? It was solved because Jimmy Carter said, I'll obey the law. I'll seek for peace. And I don't throw any bomb. I will not launch any missile. I will not drop any bullet. This is our United States president talking. Because of Jimmy Carter's attempt and made sure that there was even peace in the region of Egypt. Egypt and Israel has lived side by side till today. When PLO was formed, Yasser Arafat went to Jordan. He was sacked from Jordan. He came to Tunisia. Israeli followed them. The IDF and the Mossad followed him and then bombarded Ethiopia. In Hamamet Hamamleif in Tunisia. Where was UN? Where was the world power? Now Yitzhak Rabin in 1995 was almost, because they've had a handshake. In Norway, they've had a handshake under Clinton back to back. All the Camp David Accord, everything was of still making sure that Israel will punish or Israel, there wouldn't be any two parties. Of still making sure that Israel will punish or Israel, there wouldn't be any two-party state.
Still on the solution.
Still on the solution. So the solution is very simple. Israel respects no other country, as we all know, except America. Except America that was able to look at the face of Israel and told Israel that leave Egypt, come and listen. Anwar Sadat and Israeli Prime Minister with Jimmy Carter, they solve it. Have they fought again? No. So why the same spirit, not under George Bush Sr., after Reagan, not after Clinton, who did so much in the Middle East, then after Clinton, Bush Sr., Obama, Trump, and then Joe Biden. Why all this? The same issue. Bibi Netanyahu, his political career was almost doomed. He used this Palestinian and still using this Palestinian issue to launch the campaign because of the fact that Ramallah, West Bank, Gaza, all the Hebron and Gat and all those places. When he's pushing the agenda of resettling or taking over, you are talking about UN. UN is sitting, preaching and asking countries to donate for humanitarian crisis. But where is UN? We are going to Israel. Now we will not, the fight goes on. The blue jacket and blue helmet will go there. Why is the UN not going there with the blue helmet? How is Israel able to expel UN officials? Why is Israel able to tell the UN officials that we will not allow you to enter, and it is allowed? So if a country has a unilateral decision, a unilateral power, where do they source their inspiration from? Where did they get the energy from? America will speak. We want solutions, etc. But the moment that there is an issue, we stand by Israel, and then we have to fight.
Solution one.
So therefore, United Nations is complicit and compromised. United States of America, they've compromised with the situation. Other superpowers compromised. Look at what nearly happened about 4 or 5 days ago. Whereas Israel went all the way down, now to their old folks, their old enemy called Syria. Syria and Israel have fought the Golan Heights. They've settled the issue. They are not, be there, you are my enemy, I'm also your enemy, but let's be. But Israel went there to drop. Where did they drop their bomb? Near, very close to the Russian base in Syria. That's packed the Russia to say that, this time around, no, don't come here. So assuming that bomb had landed on Russia base, which they have interest, will it not be the same way that is the same thing USS Cole 1 or USS Reagan 1 in the Arabian Peninsula? If any country had thrown a bomb on that or missile on that vessel, do you think America will sit down? So therefore, the crisis of the superpowers and in the region and how it is played, if they were able to solve because of the Suez Canal at that time, I won't let your vessel pass the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, they were able to solve because it benefited America, it benefited them. They solved it with Israel, with Egypt. Is it difficult? They are not asking for much. The world is not asking for much. Even countries that have come forward, the Western countries that have come forward to condemn, what do they see? They are civil society organizations. They are on the street campaigning. The government officials will wear jackets and support the campaign. But when they go back to sit, either as European Union or to sit as whatever, then all of them, they will not talk. Final question?
Final word.
My final word is that everybody wants to live in peace. I still would always quote and always refer that America has the solutions to this issue.
America does?
The only country that can solve that issue is America. And let me remind you and let me tell you, yes, the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, the Israeli intelligence community, and for that matter, the Mossad, to me, they are smarter than the FBI and the CIA combined. There is no doubt about it. They are smarter than the German K9s. They are smarter than the Hawks. They are smarter than the Scotland Yard, etc. They are super clever. Investigation on points, tip top. But if you're talking about the power, their size of the army is so small, but look at the strength that they exhibit. Therefore, who is and how are they able to do that? They have a backbone, which America has said that will not let you go alone. So if America to use that money, that force, that weapon, that power to support Israel to fight, America should use that power, that force, that energy, and tell Israel, let's stop. After all, what would be the problem of the world if Palestine is granted a passport and this is your state? What is there? Palestinian land is not like Ghana that has gold, diamond, oil, timber. They don't have anything. They just want a capital town of either Gaza or Hebron or West Bank. Is it difficult to say that, okay, your country, be at your side, let me be my side? How can Ghana get up and say that, yes, we are Accra, we don't want Lomé to exist? So therefore, it is very easy. The whole world order, UN being the leader, they were able to tell South Sudanese that South Sudan should be a country, the world's most youngest country in Africa. If South Sudan was able to be given self-determination and become a nation on its own, how difficult is the same UN cannot, together with the superpower and the playmakers, not make sure that the Palestinians, the total number of Palestinians in Israel, they are the same.
All right.
Palestinians are inside about 6 million, Israelis inside about 6 million, outside about 12 to 12 million each. So therefore, give them their self-determination, give them their passport, give them their port, let them have their own airport, let them have their own passport. How difficult it is that this should create a whole lot of a barrage of crisis for the world.
All right, we will end it there. You've been watching Diplomatic Affairs with me, Harriet Nartey. My guest has been Farouk Al-Wahab, an international relations expert, and we've been sharing information, or he's been sharing insights on the current situation in the Middle East, which is Israel and Hezbollah, now Iran, and of course Hamas. So we've been looking at how best the situation can be resolved. According to my guest, the United Nations and the United States of America have the power to put a stop to the situation in the Middle East. I don't know what you think, but you can always share with us your views, opinions on this particular subject, and we will be on standby to put it out there. Thank you very much once again for watching. We really appreciate it. My name is Harriet Nartey, and I am looking forward to seeing you same time next week.